What about fucking Republicans on Thanksgiving?
Oh, I saw that.
That article on Salon. Oh my god, that was like the apex of degeneracy.
I don't even think that was the apex of degeneracy, but I was amazed at the brazenness of a woman who is a complete and total fucking mess, bragging about what a fucking hot mess she is and getting validation and approval for it. I mean, this woman in this article basically, weaves this narrative where George W. Bush has just been reelected in 2004. She and her husband have like alienating yet desperate sex, and then they become alienated from each other. And she goes to a Thanksgiving dinner, and there's like a conservative white guy there, and she's like, for some reason, in order to she rationalizes it, like in order to expel her own negative emotions, she has to fuck him.
Okay.
And it's like, wait a second, okay,
It's so twisted.
You're obviously a complete pile of mess. Like your psychology, I can't even diagnose it, but I don't need to be a psychologist to know you're toxic, you're fucked up. Everything about you, like nobody should touch you. People should flee the room when you enter it. Like you're like fucking completely toxic person. Like everything about you is awful. You're terrible. You're a terrible person. Awful. And as soon as she like fucks the Republican guy, but then he comes really soon, so obviously he's impotent. And like it's like everything about it, I was like, just yeah, like
I think the disturbing thing to me was she was describing the nihilistic, apocalyptic fantasies that her and her husband would have together about Republicans ruining the earth, basically. And then they would have desperate sex afterwards. That, to me, was just the most bizarre fucking thing.
Yeah, that's weird. I mean,
don't think I've ever had desperate sex. That's...
well, you're missing out. But
I guess so. Desperate sex.
This is after you've talked about how the Republicans are going to set off World War III and the whole planet will burn.
I think you got to, on some level, you do have to put yourself back into the mindset of the Democratic liberal circa 2004.
Well, we're living through this now where we have essentially, I mean, if you look at it, we have like an enemy president. Who's,
yes.
It's like I could be having desperate sex now, I suppose, because I would be thinking about Obama letting open the Muslim floodgates all over the West, but that still hasn't happened to me. I don't know. Maybe I think I might be healthy. Is that okay?
I think you're probably pretty healthy. But if you remember, there was that guy that like literally went and shot himself at Ground Zero the day after W was reelected.
You're right.
This is the basic mentality of like the cat lady / liberal cat man, cat lord. I hate to call them lords, but you know what I mean. Like cat ladies and cat men all across the country. I remember the kvetching and the quailing when W was reelected. Now, of course, no one at TRS is big fans of George W. Bush for obvious reasons. I think it's mainly because
family values don't end at the Rio Grande.
I think his advisors sort of like,
I'm Jewish.
Oh yeah.
Technically, that means I'm a Jew.
I am a Jew.
Yeah, I think we did have some audio of an advisory committee of George W. Bush, and they were all sort of like,
I'm a dirty, filthy Jew.
I'm Jewish. I'm Jewish. I'm Jewish.
That's all of them.
Bisexual Jewish Negro. Jew.
Was that Alex Jones saying I'm Jewish?
Oh yeah.
I'm Jewish. I'm Jewish. I'm Jewish.
That is Alex Jones, my friend.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
Technically, I'm a Jew.
Motherfucker. But yes. Yeah. But yeah. What the hell were we even fucking talking about?
I don't know. We were talking about Bush. We were talking about desperate sex.
We were talking about like the insane pathology of these liberals during that time, and I remember it well. I lived in a very liberal town at the time, and I remember the sort of like, this is a very wealthy, very affluent town of people that literally had nothing to worry about in their entire lives, who went from their really, really nice homes to hang out in like a few different cafes and coffee shops in this really sheltered, extremely wealthy suburban town. But the re-election of George W. Bush was like driving some of these people to the brink of insanity. I mean, and a lot of look, these were not. All of these people were not necessarily.
I'm Jewish.
Like, they were a lot of liberal white Protestants that were just like absolutely driven. I don't even say Protestant because they're not really religious, but many of them went to mainline Protestant churches. It was driven to distraction by this, and it was really quite crazy. Actually, I distinctly remember this atmosphere, and I remember at that time I was pretty libertarian, pretty kind of paleo conservative libertarian. I was just laughing at these people and thinking, like, I hated George Bush too, but I was like, you people are fucking crazy. Like, your whole worldview is just insane.
Yeah. Well, you know what it was that drove them nuts was that he was such an inarticulate boob. On top of everything else, he couldn't get two sentences out. He was worse than me at talking, and yet he was the fucking leader of the so-called free world, and that drove them nuts. And I think that is, well, it's not worth getting into, but that's what led to Obama just running roughshod over the electorate, is how well he spoke in comparison. In comparison, before
I don't think it had anything to do with how well he spoke. I think it had to do with the fact that we have to face the fact that whatever we think about the Republicans and, the amount that the Republicans are controlled by,
Let's say I am a Jew.
The intellectual and media and academic establishment is like 99% leftist Democrat or to the left of the Democrats.
Right.
And to them, even the GOP is so right-wing that it is unfucking thinkable. And these people went into a form of, I think, literal collective madness over the presidency of George Bush, and the media and the academic establishment. They ramped up the rhetoric, they ramped up everything to the point where people were in like this kind of frenzy, and that propelled Obama. I don't even think Obama's a particularly good speaker.
Well, no, it was just when he first came out and he was able to read the teleprompter and do this little cadence where he would go like this. It was refreshing.
You get a black guy that can string together two sentences, and liberals will fall all over themselves.
He was President Will Smith, and people wanted to elect President Will Smith.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So,
although, did you all remember seeing the picture? I remember there's a picture from some protest, probably circa the 2006 midterm elections, and it's some chick holding up a sign that said "Assassinate Bush." It actually said that on the sign. Someone even the whole Planned Parenthood thing that recently happened. I was watching it at work this morning. We had the TV on in the break room, and someone was, they were saying, well, apparently he had a gripe against President Obama. Oh God! Wow!
As if that's oh my gosh, he doesn't like the president.
No. We really should.
Which is amazing how much liberals who were literally, and I remember the anti-war movement, right? So I was sincerely, and still am sincerely, anti the Iraq War. I was never for it. I was always against it. I think pretty much everybody here was on the same page. Probably coming from a sort of right libertarian or some kind of perspective, like maybe a Ron Pauli kind of perspective. But that's where
I was into it. I thought it was awesome.
I know, yeah.
I know better now, but at the time I was. Yeah, let's
at the time you were sort of like,
Technically, that means I'm a Jew.
Yeah, I didn't know about that back then.
Yeah, no, I know.
They were great to stylize. They looked white to me.
Fucking retard!
Yeah, no, I know.
But it's okay because
I hear you're a racist now.
Oh wait, that was the wrong one. I'm a racist.
Yeah, that does make it okay.
So
that makes it okay. Shit, what the fuck were we talking about?
You were talking about Bush again. Anti-Iraq war. But we should talk about this guy. We got to talk about this Planned Parenthood guy.
The whole anti-war movement was just anti-Bush. I mean,
Oh,
it
yeah,
was
absolutely.
not really anti-war at all. Like it was just like they thought they could somehow marshal this movement to get rid of Bush, and they failed.
The world can't wait. The world can't
with-
wait. Impeach him now. You guys remember that shit?
Yeah, I do
Yep.
remember.
Well, with
Yeah.
no war, there would have been no Bush. I mean, he had no. I don't think he wins any kind of election without his wars.
Yeah,
I mean, that
that's
was-
the thing.
that
He
was
is
it.
defined by that. There's
I mean, he
nothing else
barely-
that was interesting.
No, he barely squeaked in 2000. Selected, not elected. Remember that?
Oh,
Then
God.
what did he do? He lets Kennedy write this "No Child Left Behind" debacle, and we get Medicare Part. I mean, you had a Republican president, Republican House, Republican Senate, and you get a bunch of socialism. And
Yeah,
a
you
couple
get,
war-
you
and
get
some
all the
war.
Republicans control everything. You get massive expansion of the federal government.
it was crazy.
As well as ridiculously stupid Jewish wars in the Middle East.
Yeah,
like
it was bad.
wars for Israel in the Middle East and retarded corporate socialism at home. And it was completely fucking stupid and retarded.
Yep.
Of course, liberals were against it for literally all of the wrong reasons. like they were against it, but they had no real good reasons to be against any of it.
Right.
And it was just, the whole thing was a fucking mess.
Paused.